Welcome to Facebook Group Magicians, where you're going to learn how to build a tribe like magic. Welcome to Module 1. This is the first part. It will be in two parts where you're going to actually learn how to set up your Facebook group for growth. Most people who start a Facebook group, of course, want growth, engagement, and of course the ability to monetize their group. So these first parts of this course, Facebook Group Magicians, Module 1 and Module 2, are going to set up your Facebook group in the right way that will enable that growth. I'm Vanessa Talbot. I do radiance and influence building for coaches and change makers. And of course, part of building that influence is growing your own community. So I know you're here to build your Facebook group. You want to build one that's thriving, engaged, and of course one that is simple for you to monetize. And here's what you're going to get in this entire course of Facebook Group Magicians. And I'm so glad that you're here with me. I just love talking about Facebook groups. I love teaching Facebook groups for people who do want to build their influencer status, who do want to build their own community, and just find a great way to put a lot of people into one place as warm leads for themselves. So with this particular course, you're going to get weekly support to grow and engage your Facebook group. We'll be doing 8 modules to create a thriving, monetizable Facebook group. There will be worksheets and checklists included. You will find those in the learning section in our Facebook Group Magicians private closed Facebook group. So they will be in the learning section and you will find them there each week to work your way through. So if you haven't got your worksheet to work through this module yet, just go into the Facebook group and download that and work your way through with the worksheet as well with me once we start this particular learning in this module. We're also going to have live Q&As twice a month where you'll be able to ask me your questions and get that more individualized help with your group as well. I will point out that those live Q&As are available to you twice a month for 6 months from when you registered for Facebook Group Magicians. As I said, we do have the private Facebook group. If you have yet to get in there, just send my team a message. That's Jan at vanessatalbot.com and she will get you access to that private Facebook group for magicians. So these are the steps that we're going to be covering throughout the entire course of Facebook Group Magicians. First up, there's the setup, and that's to establish the look, the vibe that's going to actually attract members to your group. The second section that we'll be covering amongst these 8 modules is the growth stage, how to get your group to grow, particularly lift-off as well. Lift-off's very, very important. And when we get to that stage, I'll explain why. Engage, of course, one of the biggest things that people have a problem with their Facebook groups is actually getting people to engage. So we're going to spend a fair bit of time on the many engagement methods that you can use to get your group members in there and engaging in your group. And of course, finally, we'll be looking at monetizing your group as well. If you're a coach or a change maker, I don't think there's anyone who doesn't want to be able to get a return on their investment for the time and the effort you're putting into your Facebook group. So of course, being able to monetize is very important. So we'll be teaching you the ways that you'll be able to do that as well. So this is my group, Step Into the Spotlight. If you're not yet a member of this one, you'll find it down there. It's called Step Into the Spotlight. But if you're going to use the search bar, you can also type in coaches, change makers. It tends to come up very quickly when you type in that as well. So this was me. This is how I started out. This is actually how I still live. This is me with my bunny and my daughter and of course one of my horses. That's Taffy there. I live a country lifestyle pretty much out in the rural areas of New South Wales. So I'm way out in the country, and I do live on my own country property with lots of animals. I can do my wildlife and caring as well, but I don't really have a big town near me. So one of the things I realized very early on was that I wasn't going to get a lot of coaching clients in my particular area. So in the early days, for me as a coach, that was the reality. I had a beautiful lifestyle, but I just had no clients, or rather very, very few clients. I did things like I wrote a book in the early days, got that out there, sold plenty of copies, first print run, all that sold out in the US and Australia. I won business awards. On the surface, it actually looked like I was doing well because I knew all the things that I needed to do to get out there and people actually, think that I was doing something out there. Let's be really, really honest. But the fact was, I was inconsistent with the amount of clients that I was getting. So I was mentoring at one of Australia's largest coach training facilities. And that gave me some income, but I wasn't getting an awful lot of personal clients myself, just because I feel that, I was hidden out here on my country property. I wasn't able to go in and network. Any networking meetings are way too far. My area I live in is way too small. So it looked like I was doing well, but I was living off my savings. And then when the savings ran out, I realized that I had to get far more consistent with obtaining clients. So that's when I decided to start my Facebook group. And just from this chart alone, I know it only goes up to 2017 and we are much higher, that we would be going a lot higher than that. But I just wanted to give you an idea. I started in 2011 and I started my Facebook group in 2015. So you can see that quicker growth after about 2 years in at 2017 in my coaching business. So there's a nice upward slide there once I started my Facebook group. So how did I make the decision to actually start my Facebook group? Well, as I said, I was living out here in the middle of nowhere, no access to people actually to obtain clients. So I realized there was only one place I could go, and that was online. It suited me and it suited my lifestyle, and it was the best option for me anyway. So to build my profile online and to get known, I began joining Facebook groups, other people's Facebook groups, of course. But then when I was hanging out in those Facebook groups, I had a brainwave. Why not create my own Facebook group? Because I had seen how these Facebook groups were doing really, really well for their creators. The creators, if they stood at the top there as the leader, the creators of these Facebook groups were they were the ones that were attracting all the attention. Certainly a lot more than those of us that were going into the Facebook groups, commenting, posting, all those things that we do in a way to get notice in Facebook groups and of course to procure clients. So my efforts in other people's Facebook groups really weren't doing that well. And another thing too is I found a lot of the coaching groups as well quite intimidating for myself personally. I found the larger ones intimidating, even though that's where a lot of my potential clients were actually hanging out. So I was intimidated in other people's groups. I also didn't want to poach in their groups. I also felt, you've put all this effort into building your own community and it feels a bit wrong. Just a mindset of mine. You may not have that one, but that's what I had. And that's why I decided, let's create my own Facebook group. Then I can position myself in that way, gather my own pool of coaches and a community of people who also serve and look after coaches as well, and create that beautiful space online where I can set myself up as the leader. So that's what I did. To my surprise, my group actually took off really quickly. It went 0 to 500 members in the first week. We were at 5,000 members within 6 months. So it did grow at quite a good, consistent and fast pace. It was considered and still is one of the better places amongst Facebook groups for coaches to hang out. And what I do want to share with you though is that I made a lot of mistakes from that first 0 to 5,000 members, a lot of mistakes. And one thing I'll be doing in Facebook Group Magicians is sharing with you those mistakes. I'll also be sharing you obviously what worked really well for me. So if you're wondering how did she do that? How did it go from 0 to 500 members in the first week? We'll be looking at in our growth modules. We'll certainly be showing you that. Today, we won't be looking at that. Today, we're going to set the foundations for your group to actually be attracting the right type of members to you. Facebook groups do not work on their own. So a lot of people are under the illusion that if I just open up a Facebook group, they will come. And anyone who's done that soon realizes that that's actually not the case. Facebook groups actually grow when they get a present leader, so someone who takes their stand at the top, so to speak, and a system to grow it as well. That system, the one that I've learned, not only from my own successes and my own fails with my own Facebook group, but also watching and learning from my friends in our conversations, and listening to them talking about their Facebook groups as well and what's working and what hasn't. I know of people with their Facebook groups that have had 20,000, 40,000 launches for a product just from their Facebook group alone. And I know if you're listening, you're probably going to want that to happen as well. And of course, if you build your Facebook group in the right way, that will happen. You need a system for growth and engagement, and that's how you actually make money from your Facebook group as well. So it's highly unlikely that you'll just open up a Facebook group, have it, lingering around 100 to 250 members, which is where a lot seem to sit, and make any substantial amount of money from that. If you are, that's fantastic. But for the most part, for most people, it won't. So this is what you'll be learning in this, is this system to all the different ways to actually start your Facebook group and then grow it all the way through. I know some of you will have already started your group. You are actually purchasing this course to actually learn how to continue to grow your group, engage your group, and of course, monetize it as well. If you have already started your group, I would encourage you to still work your way through all these parts in module 1, because for a lot of people, their setup isn't right to allow the growth of their group. So you'll be going back to the beginnings with your group, and you may have to alter and change some things. In fact, I would say that most likely you will be altering and changing some things from what we worked through today in this module. So don't think, oh, I've already done these parts, I'm just going to ignore them. It's very important that you listen to even these start-up sections for these first 2 modules of your Facebook group, and go back and revise how your Facebook group is sitting and make the changes where you see that you also need to make those changes as you move along. You will need to put in time and effort, not only on this course, so that you can grow it. And of course, being in segmented modules, 8 modules, you can work your way through those modules in your own time. So there is no time limit on this. Work your way through it in your own time and at your own pace. One thing I will say is, don't be the group owner who never shows up in their own group. Once that happens, you have lost your group. So we're going to make sure that you become a present owner without thinking that all your time is going to be spent in a Facebook group. It doesn't need to be. So obviously we'll be talking about, how often you need to be in your group, how many, how long a day should you be in your Facebook group. Those things are questions that I get a lot often, and it will differ, but I can give you a bit of an average and then you can work it from there. The faster the growth of your group and the more engaged your group in those very early days, the more support you'll get from Facebook. So remember, I told you that Facebook helps me out a lot with my Facebook group. They send leads my way, which is what we want for yours as well. And this is all free leads, by the way. So we want Facebook to help you out and send you a lot of people to your group that they think is a match for your group that you don't have to pay for. So we're not paying Facebook for these ads. Facebook are going to send them to you. They could send you 20 depending on your group, but 20, 30 people a day to join your group. Some groups, of course, when they're very, very large, they'll get even more sent to them, and highly engaged, of course, as well. So this is why it's important to not allow your group to open up and then just sit there and it doing nothing. You've got to get that fast growth happening quickly. Again, why these foundation setup pieces I'm going to give you in this module and next module as well are so important to set that into place, because if you miss those, we cannot create that fast growth and engagement that we want to do in our later modules. So it's so important that you stick with me on these very foundational pieces and get them in place. Another great thing about Facebook groups, and I don't know if you've thought about this, I know for most of you, you will be thinking, well, I want a Facebook group because I want to make money from it and I want to have a pool of warm leads and I'll be able to get clients from it. But there's also another way that I find happens when your Facebook group grows, usually from 5,000 and above. You will find that you've then got something to offer other influencers. You've got proof with your Facebook group, particularly if it's an engaged one and growing in numbers, that you have the type of group that shows that you can pull an audience. You also have that audience as well. So you suddenly become very attractive to influencers out there, and they start to see you as an influencer, which of course you are, because if you can build a group and keep those people engaged and have people continually to come into your group because of the work that you are doing with that group, then you are an influencer and you deserve that status. So when you have a really small group, it's highly unlikely you have anything to offer other influencers. But as you build your audience, it's much like having a very large list size. We know that if you have a very large list size, and I mean your email subscriber list, you are very attractive for things like summits and JVs with other influencers and all that sort of stuff. A Facebook group will do exactly the same thing for you. So the more it grows, and the more people are talking about your group or talking in your group, you will find that that influence status will grow for you, and people, other influencers, will be reaching out to you. So a Facebook group, a well-managed, thriving Facebook group, is also a door opener. It's an opportunity maker for you as the creator as well. So that's another fantastic thing, because I think beyond just, I just want to pool of clients. I actually think about that as well. My Facebook group's going to expand my reach for me. I'm going to reach more people, not just through the group, but because other influencers want to come and connect with me. So they want to do interviews. They want to put me in front of their audience. Obviously, in return, I do very similar things for them. That's why you can make your Facebook group a win-win for yourself and for others as well. We'll be showing you throughout this entire course the group growth and engagement, the formula that's going to give you those magical influencer superpowers that I talk about. Very few people actually get to that level, but if you're doing this course and you follow everything that I teach you, you have an extremely high chance of actually achieving that influencer status with your particular group. So first up, what's the difference between a group and a business page? This is one area that some people get confused with. If you have your workbook there, you'll be able to see it all laid out for you, where I define quite easily the difference between the two of them. I do know, I've had a few people when I start talking about Facebook group, then ask me questions, and it's obvious that they're talking about their business page. These are actually two very separate and different things on Facebook. Your Facebook business page is generally all about you and your service. It is a page that you open up on Facebook to promote you and your business. You can do Facebook ads from there, so that is where they come from. And it's essential that you have a business page. A lot of people say, I don't really, do I need to have a business page if I'm going to have a Facebook group? The answer is If you want to do ads and other sorts of marketing on Facebook, yes, a business page is essential, but you can send people from your business page and set it up to have them coming to your Facebook group. Something we'll be looking at throughout the course as well. So your business page, you are the only one who posts from your page as well. As I said, it's all about you. The reach on Facebook business pages at this moment is actually very low. Gone are the days when, lots of people got to see your work from your business page. Unless your business page is already highly engaged and Facebook algorithms are favoring you because of that. For the majority of people, that's not the case. For most people, the reach on their Facebook business page is actually quite low, normally around 5%. If you've got greater reach than that, fantastic. It means you're doing a great job at engagement. The thing about the business page too is accessible. It's open for everyone to actually find you and see your posts. Another important way you could actually have a business page as well for that reason. Let's have Facebook groups in comparison. A Facebook group is technically not all about you. A Facebook group is essentially a community. That's the difference. So all of a sudden, it's not all about you, because there are other members. There are group members who can come in and post, make comments. So it's not just your work that's going to get seen. If you are building a community, you will find that everyone else can post and have their opinions. So some of those opinions and what they're posting may not be specifically aligned with you and your methods or your work. So that's just something that you have to know the difference between. So the group members can actually take place in your group and in terms of take a pride of place if they are very active as well. With your Facebook group, your reach is higher. Generally, it's around 30%. Again, the more engaged your group, the more you will have that reach. So it means that Facebook probably only showing your stuff to around 30% of the members. There are ways that we can get encourage them to ask to be shown your post from your Facebook group. So of course we'll talk about that in later modules as well. But generally, it's going out to around 30% of members. A group works best when it's closed, so it's not an open public space like your Facebook group is. Most groups work best when they're a closed group and a member has to join, so someone has to ask to join before they can actually see the content in there, unlike a business page which is available for all to see. The great thing I think about Facebook groups is if you are doing what I'm going to teach you to do today, and that's fill your group with your target market. You're going to have a nice pool of lovely, warm leads that you're constantly in front of, all in one place. That's the beauty of a Facebook group. They're in there engaging and interacting. On your Facebook page, business page, you probably won't have that sort of engagement that you can make happen in a Facebook group as a community. That's the important differences. Okay, the first thing that you actually need to do, workbooks out, of course, because you'll have a little spot in there that you can answer the questions, because I really like you to get this down on paper as well. Just writing it down always tends to cement it. So the very, very first step in either reigniting your Facebook group, if you have one that's not thriving in the way you'd like to, or just starting out your Facebook group, is to decide the purpose of your group. So a lot of people actually do this, just open up a Facebook group, and they've actually got very little clue as to what the purpose of that Facebook group is actually going to be. So you have to answer this question. What's the purpose of your group for your group members? So what do you want to get your group, what do you want your group members to get from your Facebook group? That's really, really important. So some of you, if you're doing a relationship coaching, a relationship group, for example, you might have a group who wants to help people go back to dating after divorce. So there's things that you might want your group members in there to get. That is inspiration and an encouragement to get out dating again. Support just a place for them to feel heard. A lot of people just love a community feel. They just like to belong to somewhere, which is a Facebook group does that beautifully. So this sense of belonging somewhere. Advice. They may be wanting to come in there for advice. There are reasons, and you've got to know, you've got to set that purpose of, if I'm going to set up this Facebook group, what do I want my group members to get from it? So I'll pause for a little while you really, really think about that. What is the purpose of your group for your group members? Do they want a place to learn? Do they want a place to get advice? Do they want a place to feel supported and to belong? Do they want a place where they're going to get lots of free stuff and trainings? Think about what is the purpose of my group for my group members. Please pause at this moment if you need extra time to sit and think about this and move through, and then resume. Press play again when you're ready to move on. So the next question you're also going to have to look at, of course, you've worked out what is the purpose of your group for your group members, meaning what do you want to give them? So if I look at my group for coaches and change makers step into the spotlight, I wanted a place for coaches to gather and actually be inspired by one another, what they're doing to get out, get known, attract clients, and grow their coaching businesses. So that was the gist of it. That's what I wanted for my group members. The ability to see that they're not alone. And for a lot of new coaches who feel a little bit afraid or to do this stuff, I wanted to show them that it can be done, and it can be done quite easily. The next thing you really have to think about as you're creating this group or going to reignite your Facebook group is, what is the purpose of the group for you? Yes, you. And this is the bit that a lot of people don't think about, especially heart-centered coaches and change makers. You'll think about what you want for your group members, but you don't really think about what you want this Facebook group to provide for you. But if you're putting in a lot of time and effort into your Facebook group, you need to gain something from it, or else you'll just end up spending a lot of time and then end up feeling resentful for the time that you're spending in your Facebook group if you are not gathering anything from it. So think about, what's the purpose of the group for you? Let's be honest, for many, many people, they're going to want to gain clients from it. For many people, they're going to want to also make money from it. These are the reasons for having a Facebook group. They also want to be able to enable their group to position them as an expert or an influencer. And some of you may be thinking in the way that I did, and that is, my group will open doors for me and connect me with other influencers if I can grow it to the stage where everyone's talking about it. I really want you to tap into, what's the purpose of your group for you? What do you want to get from your Facebook group? So pause right now if you need to sit and think about that, and then press play again when you're ready to move on. The third thing when we're thinking about the purpose of your group is, you also need to know, what's the one thing that that group's going to get known for? The one thing that everyone's going to know, that's what that group is about. So this is where you want to avoid being a generic for everyone and everything type of group. You really want to hone in and say, my space, for example, is for people who are going back to dating after divorce. That's, so your group's going to get known for that one thing. It doesn't need to deal with all relationships. It's just going to deal with relationships for people going back into dating after divorce, for example. My group, for example, its one thing is, it's focused and known for stepping into the spotlight. That is putting yourself out in the limelight, getting known so that you don't have to chase clients, you attract them to you. So you have to decide what that one thing is that your group's going to be known for. And you know, this one thing in reality really has got to align with what you're all about and your coaching business anyway. Because I can't see that you would be starting a group that's completely separate and different to what you're actually doing with your coaching or your change making business. So make sure that that's all aligned. So for example, if you are wanting to start a group for millennials who want to learn marketing for their online businesses, then make sure that that's the one thing that your group is known for: marketing for millennials online businesses. So that's your next step, is to really work out this is the one thing, because when you are known for one thing, your group is known for that one thing, it's so much easier for people to say that's the group that you go to for that, or that's the group you go to if you're one of these, and then you head to that group. So it's very important for you to decide that one thing. Okay, moving along. The next step in our setup is to know exactly who your group is for, because you want to be able to filter the right people into your group and start filling it with possible ideal clients. One of the biggest mistakes I see with people is hitting that, when you've got all the group requests, hitting that accept all button without going through and checking the profiles, just boom, accept all. At this particular stage, what I want you to do is decide who exactly is your ideal group member. People will let in anyone and everyone who asks because they're trying to grow the group as quickly as possible. But I would actually say to you, be wary of that particular tactic at any stage of your group growth. Keep quality high. So you might think it's costing you numbers. Please don't worry about that too much, because it's better to have a smaller amount of numbers, but those numbers in there are the right people who have come in for the right reason and they want to engage, rather than having a group that's got a lot of high numbers, but these people are not engaging because they're the wrong people, or even worse, they are just using your group to spam. So you have to know who exactly do I want in my group. So your question on your worksheet is, who is your ideal group member? Once you know exactly who it is, the ideal people that you want coming into your group, and this may vary from people who fit your ideal client demographic. So again, we're going back to the purpose of your group as well. What do you want the group to do for you? For some of you, for example, you might let in other coaches who do the same thing as you. So if you're a relationship coach, I'm going to continue to use my relationship coach example throughout this entire course. If you are that relationship coach, you may want to provide a place where there's a lot of discussions around dating after divorce. And so therefore you may want some other experts in there as well to add to those discussions to give even more value to your members. So you may let in other dating experts, for example. On the other hand, you may decide, no, all the discussions and all the expert advice is going to come from me. So therefore, I'm not going to let in other relationship coaches and experts into this space. So that is a big decision that you have to make at this point. Again, go back to the purpose of the group and how you see the setup of your group, how you see your group gelling and working, and what you want to give to the people who join your group. So what the members want. For myself personally in my group, I do let in other coaches. I do let in people who serve coaches, for example, web designers, virtual assistants, people that are able to give value to the questions that the coaches in my group will ask. I've been around coaches for many years. I know the very, very typical questions that come out of them, particularly the startup coaches. And so therefore I make sure that I am also letting in people who can answer those questions as well. I can too, but I can't answer stuff on web design, for example. So that's how I sort. So once you've known what you want to do with yours, you've got to now say, well, how am I going to filter those people into my group? This is your first stop. I'm showing you on desktop. It may look a little bit different on your mobile phone, but hopefully you will know on your mobile phone where to go. So just here, I've just popped into this one. My admin clear out mine quite regularly. So I was hoping we would have some people here to show you. So 7 people want to join this group. So on desktop or on your computer, you will always get your people wanting to join the group. You'll get a little notification to say that they're there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in there and we're going to look at who is it that wants to join your group. And this is what it will look like. So when you've set up your group, you'll have your member requests here. These are some of the people that want to join my particular group. Okay. So now I have to decide which of these ones get to come into my space. As I've told you before, my admin tend to do this, and they tell me if we let in everyone, it would be up to around 40,000 people. So we are actually quite particular and quite choosy with who we let in. You can choose to be as choosy as you want, but I would advise you never to hit that button there. You can see that approve all button up there at the top. So if you see 7 requests and to the right, you'll see approval. Please don't just click that without checking through as to who you've got coming through to your group. Now you might think, oh, this is going to be time consuming. In the early days, I think it's a good exercise for you to do yourself, because that way you are building the group filled with the members that you want to have in there, your ideal target market, or those type of members that add to the value that you want the group to provide. It's very, very important to actually check each member, each profile. So you're going to have to get really good at being able to devise from a profile whether that person's going to be a good fit for your group. You won't always get it right, by the way. We don't always get it right, but it's really worthy to also note which type of profiles are very obviously fake or spam type profiles as well. That's a very important thing to work out as well. So we'll have a look and see what we can find here for you as you help me decide which of these group requests, member requests to my group, are actually going to come in. So the first one is this one. There's a few things that I look at. So let's look at Stephen here up the top. Okay, so we've got one mutual friend, one friend in the group. This is what I actually look at. Not so much the friends, I don't worry too much about that. But we look here at the group in common. So what other group are they a member of? And it is coaches, experts, and thought leaders. So I can see that they're obviously in a group for other coaches. And this button here will tell us the other groups they're a member of. So they're in Flat Earth Debate. There you go. That's interesting. They're also in Coaches Mission Driven Entrepreneurs Launch to Scale group. So they are obviously in another group for coaches there. So I'm going to actually look at some of the things I look at is here when they joined Facebook. So you can see here, joined Facebook on May the 26th, 2018. Because a lot of the spam and fake profiles, they've only just joined it in the last week or few days. Something to watch out for. Obviously not everyone who's just joined in a week or the last few days is a spam profile, but most people have been on Facebook for quite a long period of time. And so anything that is they've only joined very, very recently is something to look out for. Well, then what we actually do is we actually do go and look at the particular profile and see what we can find out. This is a reason why I say to people, you know, when I'm teaching people, is people will check you out, not just Facebook admins and creators like we are, but when you are in Facebook groups or you're on social media, you need to have everything on your profile so people can see in an instant who you are and what you do. Because we're bound to have some here where they've got a lot of stuff private and we can't actually see. And that's not very helpful when we are looking for Facebook group members. Okay, so we have this particular member, and as we can see, he's a business hippie, so he's obviously a business guy. Looks just a young dude, helping people profit doing what they love by creating models and building funnels. So he's a funnel builder. And I can see a few mutual friends there, those people that I know. So he's told us something, which is great. So I can go back and make a decision on whether that particular one comes into my group or not. And then you get to press here, either approve or decline. Okay, so then you would either approve them or decline it. I'll move on because I'm not going to show you what I'm actually, I don't want to let it be here on public if people are in or out. I think that's a bit mean. But I already know whether that person will be coming in or not, whether I see if his work is valuable or necessary or needed within my group. So that's the decision that I'm making when I look at their profile. Let's look at the next one here. Josh, he's a member of 30 groups, Senior Marketing Director at World Financial Group, member of 30 groups. So I'm going to check out what those 30 groups are. A lot of very local Florida type stuff. No worries. Also his own group, Brokers No Joke. We can see that. A podcast community as well. I'm going to check Josh out a little bit more. And he has everything here that we want to see. So what he actually does, he's a money doctor, author and speaker, freedom fighter at Brokers, senior marketing director at World Financial Group. So he's obviously a man that knows all about the money. So I'll make a decision on that one when I look at his profile. It's obviously also a real profile. You can tell they're out there with family and friends. They have lots of people, friends and everything commenting. This is what you're going to make sure this is a real profile, not a fake one. The fake ones won't tend to have a lot of action happening, or they'll have a lot of shared type posts without any comments from friends, family, or anything like that on them for the fake ones. So that's Josh there. So I'll give you a few more examples as well. I don't want to spend too long here. See this here. You can see here how Sweeter here has answered questions. So I'll be showing you in the next few modules coming up how to actually set these questions. These questions will help you decide as well as to how they answer those questions. So I'm not going to deal with that one right now because it's going a little bit further where I'll be showing you about the questions further off as well and how to set those to filter the people into your group in another way. We'll be doing that next week, by the way, for the filtering. So that's what's happening there with those where they've answered questions as well. So this one here, I say it's Waqwas Sultan Raja, member of 20 groups. I'm going to have a look at those groups. Nothing there that I really know. Seems to be worldwide business opportunities, a lot of import and exporting type stuff in there. The other thing that worries me about this one as well, that might not be ideal for my group. Now, not saying something like this is not ideal for yours, but I'm looking at this one. I would suggest to everyone that they have a profile picture when you are joining groups in there. Because when it's just something like that, it can be a little bit hard for us to decide whether this person is good for the group or not. Because this person looks to me like someone who is doing marketing, as in importing and exporting, stuff like that. It's really got nothing to do with coaching. It's more a business entrepreneur, but nothing to do with coaching or change making as such. I am actually going to decline that one off the cuff. So I don't mind sharing that. And it's just because it is just the wrong fit for my group from that profile. This is why your profile is so important. So if you haven't got your profile all set up, check it and make sure it's telling people exactly who you are and what you are, so they can make that decision whether you are a fit for their group or not. But that particular profile, looking at it, it's just not a fit for my group. I don't feel that that particular person will get anything from my group, so I don't bring them in. Here's another one here, one group in common at the Coaching Jungle, another coaching group. So we're going to assume that this particular person is into coaching. Now, with this particular profile, as you can see, it's telling us very, very, very little. We've got the person's name, but other than that, and where they live, but other than that, nothing else is being shared with us. So because we don't have any information in the intro, I can't really make a really justifiable decision there on that this person is going to actually be suitable and add value or gain value from my particular group. So that's what's happening with that. The only one on that one where we would probably consider is we'll look at the other groups, and you can see she's in a couple of the Land of New Coaches. She's a Hay House lady, mind, body, and spirit. So that is going to give me more information when the profile doesn't. The profile gives me nothing. So I'll make my decision looking at those groups in common with that one there. I hope this is helping you as to how we actually do it. Now, this seems like it's time consuming. It is, and then we'll get to the point where you will not be doing this yourself when your group is growing in great numbers. I will encourage you, and we will be talking about this in later modules, to actually gain admin assistance to do this particular job for you. But when you're first starting out, I think it's great to actually, when you're opening your group or reigniting your group, to really now that you become clear on who you want in your group and whether they're going to be aligned with the purpose of your group, filling it with the right type of people. When you have the right type of people in your group, they're more likely to engage, not just spam their content. So that's very, very important as well. So that exactly is how we do it. I hope that little look into how we look at profiles has helped you with how to actually look at profiles when looking at the member requests for your particular group. Remember, check the profile out, see if it can tell you as much as possible if that person seems to fit for your group or not. Look at what other groups that they're a member of. That's always very important to see if they're in the sort of groups that tell you that, you know, your group is aligned with what they really, really want to be doing. You'll get an idea their purpose and their own intentions by the type of groups that they're in as well. That's another reason to look at that that thing as well. And of course, always the group questions will help you out as well. We'll be looking at you setting your own group questions in a couple of the future models away. Now that you've decided the purpose and intention of your group, you've decided the type of people that you want to filter through into your group, the ideal group members that you want in there, so that you just don't have a random bunch of everyone, but you have got the ideal people in there that's going to set your group up to actually becoming one that is highly engaged. This next step is the most crucial part. This is the backbone of everything that you'll be building. You need to understand the reason people will want to join and stay in your Facebook group. There are a lot of Facebook groups out there now, very different than when I started. There was only, you know, not a few, but there was a minimal amount for coaches. Now there's just so many coaching groups, business groups, entrepreneurial groups, relationship groups, you name it. There's so many groups with everything. And of course, what happens with now, people have so many places and spaces to choose from where to go and spend their time. So they want to make sure that the time that they're spending when they are online is in the most beneficial place for them, not for you, for them. So you have to understand, why will people want to not only join my group, but on an even deeper level, why they would want to stay and actually engage and play in your Facebook group. Really, really important. What happens is a lot of people don't understand this one, and therefore they have no reason for people to stay in the Facebook group, hence why the group doesn't engage, doesn't grow, for example. So the number one question you must answer is what your target market, your new group members, are actually asking. And that's what's in it for me. You have to know the answer very, very clearly, what's in it for me in terms of that is what they're asking. So what's in it for them as group members? And I would say that for most, just having a place that's a place of support won't be enough. You have to have some standout reasons that people will come and play in your group. As your group grows in numbers, one of your standout reasons could become, oh, there's lots and lots of other coaches in here and I can get lots of ideas, for example. So the larger your group grows, the more people are attracted to larger numbers, a greater number of people. So that will be, one good reason alone. Unfortunately, if you're at this stage where you're wanting to reignite your group, or you are wanting to create and start your group off, you won't have the numbers on your side right now. So you have to look at other reasons that people are going to want to stay in your group. And I'm going to give you 6 reasons that members come into Facebook groups. And you can have a look through these and see, do any of these apply? You will find that some of them will for your group. So let's move through them quickly so you can have a look, okay? To belong. People sometimes just want a place of like-minded people to hang out with. I find that in my group with coaches, people will say, I just want to hang out with other coaches, okay? Especially in this online world where we can tend to feel isolated, where we're working online, but we don't have co-workers and that around us. We're not in your traditional workspace. So that's a reason to belong to a community. Another reason is to learn. So some of your members may be in there to learn. To find opportunities. Sometimes group members are in groups to find opportunities, particularly in groups that are centered around, for example, speakers and authors, for example. Often they'll be in there looking for speaking opportunities, as an example. They're in there for their opportunities. Might not suit, that might not be a reason people are in your particular Facebook group, by the way. It again depends very much on who you are marketing to and what you have created there. Another reason is to find clients and create their own followers. It's obvious. A lot of business groups, entrepreneurial groups, coaching groups, and even for our relationship coach, you may have other relationship coaches in your group, particularly if it's seen as a good group, who are in there to give value, give advice, and hopefully attract some clients. So that's another reason people are in your group. To grow their own name as an expert. That's another reason. And the last one is support. So look at those reasons and kind of think about, what would my target be in my group for? Okay, so just knowing this reason then, or these reasons, you might tick all of them off, you might tick just a couple of them off. In my particular group, pretty much all those reasons are existent. Then what you need to decide when you look at this, the reasons, the typical reasons that people come into Facebook groups, you then have to decide, what am I going to provide that fits those reasons that will enable those people to want to stay in my group? So as an example, if they're there to learn, you might do free trainings and webinars around the particular subject matters that you know that target market need. If they're there to find opportunities, as I said, if you're a speaker group or something like that, you might put a once a week speaker call out. You know, you might get everyone to do a call out, for example. If they're there to grow their name as an expert, then having a space that encourages opinions and debates so that those particular people who are there to actually grow their name as an expert can have the ability to show their knowledge or disagree if they wish to. If it's support that someone's in there, for example, you might like to say, okay, well, here we are, we've got this supportive community, but let's meet face to face. So maybe in the major places where most of your group members come from. So for example, in my group, I see most of my members actually come from London, even though that I'm Australian. So if you have, for example, a relationship support group, you might look at where do most of my members come from, and you might decide to create, you don't actually have to be present, you might actually decide to create a offline once a month network meeting for the members of your group so they can actually meet together in person. Another thing that you might do if they want to feel even closer to you and to other members is to create an online meetup within your group. So not just in the group space, but actually get them onto, for example, a Zoom call and where they can meet face to face. I used to do that. We used to have a ball. I might start it again. I'm not sure. You know, you'll get some of your group members, and it's very much going to depend on the time span. Groups are international, by the way, too. So sometimes you've got to think around all the different time zones as well. So that is really what you've got to be thinking about at this point. What reasons are my members in my group for, and what can I create that fulfills that reason and makes them want to stay? That's really, really important. So in your workbook, you'll find a little space to fill that in. The reason people will join and stay to play in your group is, and fill it in. If you need time to think about this one, and I can understand that you might need time, you can go back to it later or pause now if you've got lots of ideas coming through to your head. But I suggest that now that you've tuned into the fact that you don't just open in a space and then just think people are going to come in and interact and engage. They're not. Now that you understand the reasons that people come into Facebook groups, know what of those reasons they may be in yours, you can then start to create the particular going ons in your group that invite those people to come back over and over again. The vibe. You've done all those things that we've been talking about. The last part to this module, to module 1, is for you to decide what vibe you want for your group. And by that, we mean the look and the feel. The vibe phase is going to set the vibe that's going to just be really attractive to your clients. So obviously, if you have a spiritual audience, you're going to want to set up a spiritual type of vibe to attract those people. Those spiritual people aren't going to go into a group that doesn't have that sort of vibe if they are looking for a spiritual place to hang out. If you have, for example, a group for travelers, you want to have a vibe that speaks to the travelers, maybe a bit of adventure, beautiful places, whatever your group is about. So this is very, very important for you to think about the vibe, because this vibe that you set is going to help you next module in doing things like setting up your group description, setting up your banner as well. The vibe is, as I said, it's the look and the feel to your group. And there's a couple of things that we have to look at first up. First is the name. You need to name your group. So if you are here because you've already got a group and you want to ignite it, I'll be asking you to actually check your name and go back to it. Your name of the group is on the sidebar. You'll see that the name and the group banner are the first things that people notice, and also the number of members that are in it. As I said, you can't do anything about the social proof at this point, so you have to concentrate on the vibe of that group, meaning the group name and the look and feel to the group that's showing up in that group banner, which is why we'll be doing a lot of work on setting that group banner to position your group in the look and the feel that's going to attract the right members to you. So for example, if you do have a spiritual group, you know if you get a good spiritual vibe to it, it's going to keep the non-spiritual people out, because they're going to go, oh no, too woo-woo for me. You're going to go, great, you're not my target market and I don't want you in here. So making sure that the vibe is out there, bringing in the right type of people. So let's look at your name. There's two things to look at or to think about with your name. First up is that people are searching for groups. So when they are looking at, they're not going to know the name of your group. So you've got to think about, what do people that are my target market, what will they be searching for in the search bar? So if you have a relationship group, you're our relationship coach, they might be searching relationships. Remember, it's for going back to dating after divorce. So they might be searching dating after divorce. There's several things that they might even search for love. So know the keywords that your target market are searching for. And it's very important to have one of those keywords, at least one, in your group name title. The other thing that's important is this simple little formula that I feel, and you'll see it existed in my group, but I see a lot of the best groups have this formula at work. And that is who the group is for and the benefit that they get from it. So this goes back to your purpose. Remember that you worked on the purpose and the reason for your group. What are people going to get from the group? So there's our simple formula. Who is this group for and what do they get from it? So if you look at my group name, it's Coaches, Changemakers, Step into the Spotlight. So it's telling us who it's for, coaches, changemakers. So of course, the only keyword I use for mine is coach and coaching. So mine just gets filled with coaches or people who are looking for coaching groups because they know their target market of coaches are in there. So that's the only keyword that I use. So at the beginning of my group name is who it's for, coaches and change makers. And if we look at the end, what they get from it, you'll see that in action, step into the spotlight. Now, what do you think would happen if I just called my group what they get from it, step into the spotlight? I would be getting a lot of people that were things like musicians, artists, actresses, all those people. So that's why I have the coaches and the change makers at the beginning, because it's saying coaches, change makers, this is a group for you and this is what we're doing in it. So have a look at this formula. You don't have to do the double like that. You'll actually find that you can put it as in just the name of a group of who it's for. So for example, there's a group out there called I Work in Personal Development. That tells us straight away who that group is for, doesn't it? I work in personal development. The Coaching Jungle, another big coaching group out there, tells us, again, this is a group for coaches and those coaching, because it's the Coaching Jungle. And another group called Psychic Readings for Beginners. So we've got this formula, but in reverse. What are they getting from it? Psychic readings. Who's it for? The beginners. So it's put in reverse. So we have the whole formula there, not just who it's for. There's another group I saw today that I had to have a laugh about, and it was Bitches Drinking Wine. That was the name of the group. I thought, well, that tells me in an instant who that group is for. It's for women who like to drink wine. So the formula can be that either one part of it, as in what they get from the group, or who's it for, as in I work in personal development, for example, what they get from it. It might just be a group called relationship fixing. So we're going to fix your relationship in here, but it's not exactly telling us who it's for, is it? But that's okay. You can add that information in the group description or on the banner. So this is very important. And one of the big mistakes I see with a lot of people is that they try to get too creative here. They try to get too arty because they want to be different. They think that arty and creative is going to stand out, when in fact it actually works in reverse. Arty and creative will have people scratching their head, deciding, going, well, that's not obvious the group for me, so I'm going to get out of there. So a couple of examples that I saw was that I thought, what's that about? Was I think it was something like the Nova experiment. I guess if you know what that's about, but for me, it looked all spiritual, but it was called the Nova experiment. It didn't really tell me anything, so I just bypassed it. And that's what tends to happen. If people have to second guess or spend any time thinking about it, you're going to lose them. So this is why you must be exactly on target with your name as well. Another one that I saw was the Flussel tribe, Flussel. And I thought, what on earth is Flussel? I had no idea. I did a little bit more researching into it, so I had to take the time to go and have a look in the group description as to what Flussel actually meant, and it meant hustling with flow. Which is great and creative, but the problem is if you are looking at wanting to grow that particular group, it could be challenging because most people aren't going to stop and think about it like I did. Only because I was doing this research, I did that. A lot of people will go, no clue what that is, I'm moving on. So it's very important to know what your target market is searching for. So put those keywords in your group name if possible. Even just one will do beautifully. And make sure that you are using that formula that I've given you as well, where it states who the group is for and what they're going to get from it. And you'll find that your keyword in your group title will fit into that formula really, really, really well. So that is what to do with a group name. This is why it's so important to do all that preset work that I gave you. What's the purpose of the group? Who's it for? Because then, and only then, once you've made all these decisions, can you actually create your name. Because the name needs to hit them in an instant where they say, that's a place for me. That's where my people are hanging out, or that's where I can go to get this problem solved. Do you know what I mean? It's got to work in that way. So very important for you to create a name that says, this is it. This is where we talk a little bit more about the look. As I said, the name is part of it. Let's take it into the whole vibe of it. As we know, that old saying, it's the vibe that will attract your tribe. You've got to understand what's the vibe, look, and feel that my group will have. And if anyone has seen my group, and you're looking at this screen right now, you can see magic, can't you? Stars, sparkles, and if you go into the spotlight, you'll see it's always stars and sparkles. Everyone knows the same as my website. Everyone knows there's a lot of blues. It's a Vanessa look. And that's what you need. You need an identifying factor so that your group isn't looking completely left field to, say, perhaps your Facebook business pages and to your website. You really want to look and feel that unites everyone at every place where you are actually showing up and presenting yourself. So your Facebook group just has to fit in with that. And that look of yours, that branding, as we like to call it, must reflect in an instant to the people who are looking at your group, making that decision within those first few seconds, whether that vibe, by the look of that banner, for example, or the name of the group, is for them or not. Some people it won't be. I get that people may not like my sparkles as much as I love them. That's fine. They can move on to maybe a more serious business or corporate type group. But that's not my ideal clients, and so I'm not concerned at all about that. I love the people who love the magic out there, the love everything that we're doing as a coach and stepping out into the limelight, and the beautiful feeling of magic and just shining in our brilliance that is behind that. So know your vibe, and I want you to think about that as we end off for this particular module, because you will be bringing it to your group banner. But I want you to sit down and look at things like, what's the feeling I'm going to have for my group? What do I, for example, there are some groups, particularly some of the business groups, and they have quite a heavy feeling to them where there's a lot of debate and opinions going on. And that is fantastic for the people who want to show off their expertise, love having debates, love having opinions thrown around. They love that feeling. But for my group and for myself, that's just a little bit too heavy for me. I'd rather be on the lighter side, really show people more about possibility rather than what's wrong and what's not working. I'd rather be focusing on where we're going and what we can do. So I like a lighter field. But if you have a group that's very business and you know that your target market are full of the sort of people who love to debate, then it's absolutely perfect for you to have that vibe where debate and opinions is really, really encouraged. So know your market, know who you want in there, and then provide them with what they want in your group so that they stay, but then allow the vibe and the feel of the group to express that, so that the people who are looking at your group can get a feel for what it's going to be like in for them straight away. Everything that you've done today, of course, we'll be extending in your next module, in module 2, so that I hope that you're going to be ready to start module 2. Work your way through everything that we've done today. I just want to remind you, if you're sitting here going, whoa, there's going to be a lot of work to do, there is. But here's some of the reasons why having a quality Facebook group is going to be important. If you've been looking for clients all over the place, and you're spending a lot of money marketing, or you don't have the money to spend on marketing and gathering leads, creating a Facebook group will actually have all those potential clients coming to your space and looking at you. So that's a big plus. With your Facebook group, as you build it and grow it, you have the ability to create those bigger launches that you hear that others can do. I mean, I've easily done $10,000 day just by putting just by putting out an offer in my group. Boom, boom, boom. So when you build your group, these are doable for you. So yes, you're going to have to do a little bit of work. As I said, this is not going to just happen overnight either, but you have to focus on the results. And that's why I want to see you continuing on with module 2, module 3, and all the way up to module 8, because take your time, work through them. The results will pay off in the longer rate as your group grows and grows and grows and becomes more and more engaged. Remind yourself why you're here, because it's your time to have a Facebook group that's a true high vibe community that's also establishing you as a leader and an influencer in your field. It's also going to provide you with a flood of leads, clients, and opportunities. And that's what's going to give you a return on your investment. Not only any financial investment you're putting into your group, including this course, but a return on your time as well. You'll get a financial return on your time if you take these strategies that I'm going to teach you and use them to build your group. As I said, if you've already got your group and you're looking at this module going, I don't need to do this, it's the foundations, I hope you really understand now why you need to revise all this. So please take every step that we've been doing. I just want to remind you that it is your time to shine as a coach and a leader, and your Facebook group is a perfect place to do that, particularly as you grow it. Remember, everything I've shared with you and will be sharing with you in this Facebook group Magicians course, within the Facebook group that we have if you are doing this course, and of course on the live Q&As, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a second. It's all that I've learnt and used to build my very own Facebook group. Now that Facebook group has had me invited to India to speak. It's had me invited to San Diego to speak. It's had me invited all around Australia to speak. It's brought me clients. It's connected me with other influencers who have introduced me to their audience. It's got me on a countless number of podcasts and radio shows that I can't even remember how many. It's really worth your while if you want to build your name within the coaching community or within your niche community as well. So as I said, everything that I'm teaching you is what I've experienced, is what I've done to grow my group. You'll be getting my fails as well. Quite happy to share those with you along the way. And also, as I said, the information that I've gathered from my friends who also have very large, engaged and thriving Facebook groups as well. I'll share their tips that they've given me as well. So next week, of course, next module rather, uh, we've looked today at setting our purpose, create the attention grabbing name. You will be looking at your next module, just a heads up of what you'll be doing. Remember, we're talking about the vibe. We want to make sure that the banner is going to elicit that vibe and draw in the right people to you. So we'll be looking at the banners. We're also going to be defining the group boundaries as well, so that you've got some guidelines for people to come into your group. Now, Q&A. I will be available twice a month on an open Q&A call. So you're just coming onto a Zoom link. So we'll just be meeting in my little Zoom room, and you'll be able to ask me any questions around your Facebook group. So you can get quite specific and we will look at your particular Facebook group. So it won't just be generalized advice. You can say to me, can you come and have a look at this? What do I need to do here type thing? We can give you answers on that Q&A. It is a group Q&A. But it's available there. I'll never know how many people are going to show up, so you might get me all to yourself, or you might have to share me with a cast of thousands. I don't know. It just depends on who shows up on that day. But those dates for the Q&A will be always listed to the pinned post in our Facebook group for Facebook Group Magicians. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed working your way through Module 1. And that you have worked your way through the workbook as well. The workbook should be quite self-explanatory and easy to work through. And then you've got your answers in one easy place to keep as well. I'm Vanessa Talbot, Radiance and Influence Builder for coaches and change makers. This is Facebook Group Magicians. We are teaching you how to create and grow a thriving, engaged Facebook group that will be easy for you to monetize. I will see you in Module 2.